Hey everyone, Matt here on another edition of Ask Ron. Ron, how's your day going so far?
Going great, man. Going absolutely great. The weather's beautiful out there.
Yep, that's
Good
right. It's
day.
supposed to rain all week and then it's just been sunny the whole time.
Let it rain. We need it.
Yep, I agree. All right, we have 6 questions today. And the first one is from Mario up in the British Columbia.
Good old Mario. Can always count on him, can't we?
That's right. Mario says, hi Ron, what's the best source for probate deals?
The best source that I know of is to actually rent a list of people. You can get a list of people that are probably going to go into probate. You get a list of other people that are in probate. And I think you can even get a list of people that are pre or after probate. You can get those from Christy King at yellowletterlady.com, yellowletterlady.com. She can get you those lists and also mail for you to those lists if you like.
Nice. All right, we have another probate question. This time it's from Tony in Tennessee.
Tony?
Tony says, what are the legal limitations to discussing terms on a property that is in probate?
There are no legal limitations to discussing terms on a property in probate or anywhere else for that matter. As far as I know, there is no law that keeps you from discussing anything that is legal, and anything about terms is certainly legal. So I'm not sure where your question came from, Tony, but you don't need to worry about legalities when you're discussing anything on the telephone with people.
All right, Tony's got nothing to worry about.
No.
All right, the next question is a 3-parter, and it's from Omar up in Alberta, Canada.
Wow, got 2 of them up there now. All right.
I know. All right, Omar says, I was one of your quick start students last year in April of 2021, and I've also had a mentor as well.
Good.
I'm working on a deal that initially my interest was to tie up with a cash offer and flip the contract. However, it's a low/no equity deal, and I'm struggling to angle it for the seller to accept. My goal is to accept terms, but however, there's no mortgage because the property is just a HELOC.
Well, Omar, I don't know why you would have tied it up if there's no equity in it, if you intended to flip it, unless you're going to flip it to owner occupants. And even then, now you're agreeing to pay all cash, and now you've got to find somebody that can pay all cash. I don't recommend people even doing that when there's little or no equity in them. What's in it for you? How are you going to get paid? Sounds like the only way you can get paid is to raise the price, which is certainly okay. I don't know about Canada, but it's certainly okay in the United States right now. And you probably get it, but still you got to find that qualified buyer. So when you are flipping properties for cash, generally we're talking about buying them below market value because they need renovation, and usually flipping them to investors. So I think you need to go back to the drawing board and ask yourself, why'd you put it under contract to begin with? Now, of course,
numbers here regarding the property. For the contract, it's locked at 285,000, and as is comp is 335.
Yeah,
is 395. The heat balance is 285, and the equity to the seller is 5,000 on closing.
Okay, well, I don't see anything here where what you've done to try to flip it, but you should be able to. You got over $100,000 worth of equity in that property. I think you should probably flip that. I mean, it looks like it might be worth 15, 20 grand at least. So I'm not sure what the question is. What have you done to get it to market out there, get it to the buyers? I think that's probably a bigger question you ought to fire back in here if you're having trouble with it. Because I didn't hear a question here, did you?
No, here they come now. I think well, he's reading his mind.
Well, something about terms. I would definitely try to convert it to terms, but that may or may not be possible when you've already offered a cash offer, assuming you have. Sounds like he has. I don't know.
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head, Ron. He was asking, is there any potential pitfalls that he should be careful of when buying on terms with HELOC?
You just broke up, Matt.
Oh, I said you hit the nail on the head. His question, one of his questions is, are there any potential pitfalls that he should be careful of when buying on terms with HELOCs involved?
Well, man, now I am confused. First, we started out, we're going to flip the contract. Now we're buying it on terms with HELOCs. Okay. Yeah, if it's a HELOC, that's a home equity line of credit. That means the bank could call the loan due if they find out that it transferred, but that wouldn't bother me any. Frankly, as long as you have the seller has your disclosure that the bank can call a loan due and you're not personally liable for it. And if you sold it, if you lease optioned it, then I'd give that lease option tenant buyer a shorter term, like about a year, which you certainly can do in Canada. If you sold it on agreement for sale, then you have to disclose that loan has an underlying HELOC in it, because your attorney most certainly would do it. But the HELOC doesn't stop you from doing anything, but it does put more pressure on you getting out of it sooner, because there is a better chance of the bank calling a loan due on a HELOC if they find out that the seller has transferred ownership. So again, it wouldn't stop me, but you got to handle that very carefully and make sure that disclosures are there. And use my CYA letter and have your attorney adjust it to their liking. And there probably should be a special addendum in this case where everybody knows there's an underlying HELOC and that the bank could call the loan due. Seller has to be able to live with that. If not, then you can always lease it with an option to buy from the seller. Then the bank can't call the loan due and avoid any concerns about that, which might be your safer way. Lease it with an option to buy and then sandwich lease it to a tenant buyer. And then when they cash out, the HELOC's irrelevant. Everybody's paid off, which is probably the smartest thing to do in this case.
Got it. All right.
And I would tell the seller, I mean, I'd like to buy it, but with that loan on there, we shouldn't. We should just do a lease option for your benefit, Mr. Seller. And it is. Yeah.
His last question on the topic is, what are some of the answers that he can provide to the seller's rebuttals on terms where they say, we just want to pay off our HELOC and move on?
Well, if the seller wants all cash and won't sell it without getting paid all cash, then there is no answer to that, because you're not going to overcome that unless you can change their mind. So then your only other choice is to go ahead and put it under contract and then go find that all cash buyer. But now I understand that it needs renovation. So your all cash buyer is likely going to be an investor, because the owner occupants can't go down and make a loan on the property if it needs these kind of renovations that I'm thinking it needs. But there's nothing to stop them putting it under contract. Get yourself 45 days to close, put it out there at $20,000 higher than you're paying for it, all cash. And in this crazy market, you'll probably get a buyer for it and problem solved. What do you got to lose? Absolutely nothing, except the $10 or so you give the seller when you put it under contract. And that's something everybody needs to remember. Just because we put it under contract doesn't mean that nasty things are going to happen if we can't sell it. So put it under contract first, and then worry about all that stuff you're worried about now, because it's very likely somebody's going to come in and buy it pretty quick and pay, and that can pay cash for it.
All right. There you go, Omar. That was a nice detailed answer.
Well, Omar, you got a potential deal there, but you got to think like the seller. If you can't convert them to terms, then do a cash deal, and you got plenty of equity to do a cash deal there based on what you tell me. Just put it under contract. Just remember, don't do any seminars, okay? Don't get into this, well, here's what I'm going to do with the property after I buy it, blah, blah, blah. Just shut the hell up, answer the seller's questions shortly and briefly, and get it under contract. And so the less you talk, the better chance you got of getting the deal done.
That's right. All right, Ron, we've come up to our last question of the day, and this one's from Michael in Ohio.
Ohio, that's where my wife was born, and I spent 10 years of my life.
Oh, nice. Do you like it up there?
It was all right while I was up there, except in the winter.
I'm sure it got a little nippy.
Look, I'm from Florida, okay? So I had a service station business up there, and I had 3 wreckers, and I love the cold weather from the wrecker point of view. When it got down to 20 below, boy, we were snowed under for weeks. I mean, we were towing people's cars in just to let their oil thaw out so we could take their oil and change it to a lighter viscosity oil so they could start their engines. But I remember going out, I had a 15-acre farm, and I go out in my backyard one day, and it was so cold. And bathtub, the water in the bathtub was froze out there that I fed the hogs with, and I was out there with a sledgehammer breaking the water in the bathtub. And the thought just occurred to me, what in the hell are you doing here, Florida boy? And I swear, 6 months later, we were in a truck moving all of our crap back down to Florida. But I had had a nice business there for 10 years with Standard Oil of Ohio called Sohio. And they closed my station down one time. I went down to Florida for vacation. I came back and they closed up my station. I was a consignment manager. I owned all the tools and all the records. They closed me up with no notice. So this was in 1976. All right. Here, you got me started on a rampage here, Matt. Ohio brings back memories, some pleasant, some not so pleasant. That's all.
Oh man, it sounds a little cold for me though, Ron. I don't know about that. Below 20. I'll stick to my my 50-degree winters here in Florida.
Have you ever been in minus 20?
No.
Not for humans, honestly. And I see these TV shows with these Alaskans minus 60. I don't know how people live in minus 60, I swear. I got off a plane one time in Canada and it was minus 40. My breath froze. And I swear, just between the car and the hotel, you had to be bundled up. I mean, I don't know why people would want to live in that. And by the way, all of you listening that are in those kind of climates, just in case you didn't know, you don't have to live there. Just for the record. All right. Okay, I got that off my chest. Go ahead. What's the question?
All right. Michael says, can I transfer ownership of an LLC that I already have to an IRA?
No, you cannot do that. You cannot put anything you own in your IRA except cash up to the $6,000 limit, period. Your IRA has to buy everything and cannot buy it from you. Cannot buy it from you, your spouse, or either of you's parents, grandparents, children, or grandchildren, but it can buy it from brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles. Just can't buy it from the linear descent. It can't do business with the linear descent in any way, shape, or form, which means buying stuff from it or selling stuff to it or borrowing or lending, either way. And that includes any company that you control as the owner of the IRA. So the IRA cannot take any of your assets in. It has to buy your assets. And I suggest you don't try any slimy games because the IRS is onto you if they happen to audit you. For example, you might be thinking, well, I think I'll just deed my property to my brother first, and then my brother will sell it to my IRA. You might get away with that if you don't get audited. On the other hand, you can rob banks till you get caught. But sooner or later, when you bury a skeleton in your closet, you're burying that skeleton for years and years and years. And just when you totally forgot about it and it's long over, here comes the IRS coming after you. And now you got to go back and atone for your sins. Mm-hmm. Don't do anything that is illegal and don't try to skirt the issue, and you'll never have to worry about somebody opening that dark, ugly closet in the future. It's just too easy to do things right and abide by the rules.
That's right. Don't want to cut any corners with the local system.
And the IRS is one gorilla you don't want to dance with.
Yeah.
They have powers unlike any other entity in the world. They're the largest collection agency in the world, and they can do things that no other entity can do. They can take your IRA away from you, example. No other entity can do that. And they can take your home away from you, and in any state, and in many states, your home is protected, but not from the IRS. So you don't want to mess around with the IRS.
Yep, that is for sure. All right, Ron, that was all the questions we have for today.
All right. Okay. Have a happy July 4th, folks. And here you are at Independence Day. So are you doing anything to create independence in your life on Independence Day? If not now, when? See you next week.